be enough, though. He's dropping way too quickly now, and he is going to be gone in a few seconds.
Another boost, but he's gone
That
as
is
well.
a lot of DPS already off the field for Triumvirate.
And an Navitas, both Navitas, just goodbye. Afterlife Navitas off the field. We're going to start trading ships here. Ugly Eric did find his shield booster, so while he's taking damage, he is boosting. Web on Captain Smollett's Stratios on the Afterlife side, but damage not really being applied effectively to him, and Ugly Eric's into armor.
Yeah, those Navitas dropped so quickly, I went to look to see if they were boundary violations, but they weren't. They just died the old-fashioned way.
That much damage.
Ugly Eric Sleipnir is barely holding on, and meanwhile the Stratios of Captain Smollett is into armor where he should be happy with.
Yep, right, he's just barely into his tank, and that Sleipnir of Ugly Eric lost its armor now, still boosting, but he's into structure now. He's doing 1,800 meters a second, but he's just still taking an enormous amount of damage. Can't outrun the Golem's cruise missiles.
Stratios is actually probably going to die at around the same time, though, so Triumvirate is getting trades, which they definitely need to be doing, but these
they're
aren't
not getting
good
great trades. Yeah, no, they're in trouble here. They're falling behind. And the question is, can two Rattlesnakes break a Golem?
One of them's a Flaggle Snake, so actually I think they probably can if they can keep both of them alive.
But the Flaggle Snake had missile launchers on it, we saw, but the other did not.
They both did, actually.
Did they both? Okay.
Did. So now we're seeing Afterlife going straight for God's Cold Blood. They're going to try to knock down that flagship.
Triumvirate is trying to take out the Lynx off the Afterlife team. In the meantime, getting rid of that EOS. They will see. They're going to get into armor here. We'll see how much they can do.
It might have its own
God's Cold Blood is actually not the flagship.
It's not the flagship.
War God is the one.
So the flagship, or the Rattlesnake that's taking damage for Tri is not their flagship, but he is actually dropping quite quickly. He is...
and we might be back to the same situation we saw in the last match with a Golem left on the field with a Rattlesnake.
We'll have to see, and in that case didn't work out very well for the Rattlesnakes.
The
Tri needs to get
half
kills.
armor, but God's Cold Blood into armor now, so the Rattlesnake is trapped like a rock.
He's going to die before the EOS does, I think, and that's definitely not good.
Here goes the EOS into structure now, but so is the Rattlesnake. Rattlesnake has more HP, but he's facing more damage
but it's not enough, not nearly enough. He is going to be dropping. They're
EOS
both
dropping.
They're
going to go almost the exact same time. That EOS off the field, but God's Cold Blood is gone too.
That is half of the Rattlesnake core for Triumvirate down. They've lost both their Sleipnirs. They have very little damage left. It's down to just Flaggle Snake.
Honestly, the Flaggle Snake is now facing Stratios and triple Vexor. That first Vexor is into armor, but that's a ton of damage on top of the Golem already.
So Afterlife is doing the smart call here. They need to clear off the cruisers now. The Vexor,
get rid of the
then
Vexor.
get rid of the worms, get rid of the ancillary damage, everything but the Rattlesnake. And if they get that off the field fast, then not only do they have a chance to kill the Flaggle Snake, but they can also win on points even if they don't.
Jaegerin's Rattlesnake has taken that Vexor down, so Jaegerin is off. I'm sorry, the War God's Rattlesnake has taken that Vexor off the field. I'm assuming he's going to be going for Voldemar next.
There's the Vexor off the field now too.
Yep, so Triumvirate losing damage left and right, only 12 points behind, but they have a lot of work to do here still. This is looking pretty dire for them. They're going to get another Vexor off the field shortly. I think a Web now on Otoviani. Looks like the two Worms, Merlin, and Carries, they're doing some work here still for the Triumvirate team, but wow, a lot of damage now on Voldemar. We will see. Can War God do this?
So the Vexors and the Worms and Merlins are basically battling together. The Worms and Merlins are tackling the Vexors, but the Vexors want to be shooting at them anyways, so that's fine with them. They're going to try to knock down this Worm.
And that Vexor is off the field now, so one more Vexor left to go, and Stratios still at a Worm. Yep, Worm down.
So at this point, the fact that Stratios actually has a pretty solid armor tank is going to be very helpful, because it's going to mean that extra couple seconds of survival, potentially another Frigg or two down. It is, I think, this match is going to come down to Golem versus Rattlesnake before it all finishes.
There's another Worm just lost his shields. A Theron Valarax, he's target painted, doing almost 3,100 a second. He's burning around, but the Golem cruise missiles are still going to catch it, and that's the key. Can these frigates stay alive? There's 5 minutes left for that Golem to apply damage.
Doing it fast enough.
And you cannot outrun the damage of a Golem.
Those Worms had the heavier tank. The Merlins are going to be much easier targets. The Carries going to be easier target.
Half armor. The Vexor is going to drop for Otoviani, but there's still Stratios Golem against what's going to wind up being a Merlin, Carries, and a Rattlesnake.
This is definitely advantage Afterlife. It has to be advantage Afterlife at this point. A Golem versus a flagship Rattlesnake, 1v1. You have to expect that when it gets down to it, the Golem is probably going to outlast. And it's going to be very, very hard for Tri. This is going to be, War God is going to have to be an epic hero to be able to clear off the Stratios and the Golem in this match.
So, this is kind of the crazy thing of Triumvirate bringing Rattlesnake every match. So, I mean, the last 2 weeks we've seen out of them has been Rattlesnake, and just relying on that to get them through. Eventually, you figure a team's going to figure it out.
Yep.
And the question is whether Afterlife may be planned for this or not. But even still, I mean, they had to be confident going into this that they were going to have something to counter it, and it looks like they brought something that did counter it.
So the heavy newts from that Flaggle Snake, it of course can fit officer and faction newts. It's reaching very far. It grabbed the Stratios with the newts, and the Stratios is not running hardeners at all right now. We're seeing no hardener effects on it. It is completely out of tap.
Yeah, he's moving at base speed as well. So
and meanwhile, Afterlife is trying to finish off that last carry, which they should be able to do.
They should be able to. I haven't seen damage applied to it yet, which is strange, but they really should be able to get it.
But that carries actually is pretty important. If the carries can somehow survive, I
there
have
go
a
his
hard time
shields.
imagining it, but if he somehow could, the carries...
It's a tie match.
Yeah, plus the Rattlesnake would actually be enough to tie it. But we'll have to see what he can do.
He's overheating.
Yeah,
He's
it's not
overheating his
gonna be
speed,
nearly
36, 3700, but nope, there goes his armor, 3800, 3900. He's going incredibly fast, 4000, but now into structure.
He can't overheat forever, and he's still taking the damage.
4100 now. He just broke that mark. That is incredible speed from Maulus, or carries, I should say, who balances these ships after all, 4150.
And that carry is going to go away. So that means we are once again seeing Golem versus Flagship Rattlesnake. The last time we saw this, it was
Or he's hanging out. No, there he goes. He was about 2% structure there for quite a long time. Rattlesnake of Wargod already taken a little bit of shield damage. The Golem going to get started to work on him. But look at that Golem taking damage now. We'll see.
This Golem is now taking big chunks of damage.
He boosted that ASP awfully early. Like he just, you know, boosted right away. Not worrying about wasting.
He has a single Gecko on him, I'm seeing. I'm not sure what's...
drones being recalled from Wargod's Rattlesnake, it looked like? Oh, no, he just put
No, that's just the Augmented Warriors.
So the colors are flipped on your screen, so you're throwing me. Here we go, though. That Golem now has newts on it, so the Rattlesnake potentially could newt out the Hardeners and see, but that's a lot of newting to have to do. 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Wargod has a lot more time than we saw from
the Hydra team. Yep,
so
that's absolutely right.
That is the advantage that he has. This is something that actually we could see potentially Wargod pulling this off. It would require, I think, like maybe a 9.5 on the hero scale to pull this one off. This would have to be an epic hero for Rattlesnake to be able to pull this off, but he's going to have to give it a shot.
Well, there's definitely damage going down both ways here. The Wargod's Rattlesnake seems to be getting the better of it, though.
The Golem is taking, like, he would be dead in maybe 45 seconds if he didn't boost, but he's still boosting.
Right.
So we're going to have to see whether he's got just a single rep, whether it's an ASB plus a normal rep, and whether he can make it all the way through a reload.
Last under all that newting. I mean, so far, but look at Wargod's
still see Hardeners.
damage.
We do still see Hardeners, and Wargod, is continuing to take damage. He is like maybe 60%. Wargod is also boosting though, so he's.
Look at all that huge boost back from the Golem. He's all the way back, but my goodness, we have still 2 minutes now, 2 minute mark. And who knows what's going to happen, really? Like you say, if there's an ASB reload coming up, if somebody caps out here, this could mean different result than we saw before. One of these ships could actually die.
So we're going to take a very close look at Jonathan Kane here as Golem. If you see the Hardeners turn off on him, then that's going to be bad news, and that's going to be exactly what Wargod is looking for. If Wargod can cap him all the way out, but you have to imagine that in a tournament environment like this, you've got cap boosters. Golems have a gigantic cargo bay, bigger than a Rattlesnake.
Right, because they're marauders, that's where they're gathering loot and so forth.
If one of them's going to run out of cap from this, it actually could even be Wargod first. We'll have to see. There is only now 1 minute, 19 seconds left. That, I think, means that it's going to be very, very difficult. I think he's meeting like a 9.99 on the hero scale to pull it off.
Yeah, we're getting past the realm of possibility here. Not there yet, but I think we're getting close. Wargod's still boosting comfortably, but his cap doesn't look like it's hurting any, but I imagine he's fit for what he's doing. So
we just saw the Ronin knockout Hydra Reloaded, and we looks like are about to see the Afterlife knockout triumvirate from this tournament. These are two incredible matches. Those are two teams that, especially with Afterlife, people didn't really see coming.
Right.
PL obviously had talked about it after the match that they had done a lot of research and were really afraid of Afterlife with obviously good reason.
Good reason, for
sure,
yeah.
They are going to be continuing through.
Well, we talked about,
seconds.
There maybe they don't mind being in the losers bracket. Oh, they're just gonna tear through the losers bracket. And here's the problem: the losers bracket is incredibly hard.
It can knock anyone out. Yeah.
So many good teams in this tournament this time. More good teams in this tournament than I think in the last 2 tournaments combined. It's just really incredible the level of skill and piloting and comps that we've seen in this tournament. And a lot of them wound up in the losers bracket as a result. There were a lot of tough brackets out there for people, and this eventually happens. And it's really unbelievable that a team Triumvirate just flew incredibly well. A lot of us were thinking they were going to go all the way through the losers bracket to the end, and here they go. They just met their match with Afterlife. 2 seconds to go. The Rattlesnake and the Golem will both survive.
That is the match. So that is Afterlife on points, knocking out Triumvirate and moving on through the losers bracket. Triumvirate's going to go home. It's got to be a little bit heartbreaking for them coming up against Hydra at the beginning and then having their tear through the losers bracket ended by Afterlife. But they put on an amazing show, and I'm sure we'll see them next year. And with that, we'll send you all back to the analysis desk.
Little bees, little bees, little bees, little bees. Wait upon instructions, little bees.
Come on, guys. Own with me, friends. Own with me. No fear, dude. No fear, no fear, no fear. I don't believe in reloads. No reloading. Logistics, you are. Scrams, dude. Scrams. All the thing, scram them. Some of you do it's being horrifically outpaced by this time. Just saying. That was epic.
The Ronin. I mean, the Ronin have crazy tournament pedigree.
Fun. There he goes.
Nice.
I believe Sir Squeeple worded this quite well when he said, just now, upset city.
Yes.
Reykjavik.
Yes.
That's where we are right now.
Yeah, I think they're the joint mayors of Upset City, Fozzie and Bacchanalian.
They are keeping the hype up in the Hyperion,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
So now we've seen the Triumvirate is out. They've done a really good job from the start, going through the losers bracket from day one.
Yep.
But all things must come to an end eventually, and Afterlife saw to that. This means we have 2 more matches. We have the next match is Ronin versus Tuskers,
Yep.
and after that, Afterlife versus Nully. So as you can hear, the Ronin just fought and beat Hydra Reloaded in the match previous to this one, and they're fighting again next. So we might have a little bit time for them to.
Yeah, they're going to need a little bit of a break, probably.
Yes,
Because, I mean, I still need a break from that match. I wasn't even playing it, so I guess we'll give them a little bit of time.
This means like we are behind schedule, but there's nothing really we can do about it. We can only keep going as strong as ever, and talk about how amazing these last couple of matches have been.
That was incredible. This last match in particular was also really incredible. And I'm just going to keep saying super and incredible all the time. But we predicted, like it was very easy to predict that Tri would take their flagship Rattlesnake, but we weren't sure in what context. Tri, like, they clearly knew what their opponents were going to bring, and they banned out those Navy Vexers, which I think, even though the Stratios is okay because it's got a bigger tank, I still think the Navy Vexers would have been better.
Yep.
So I think Tri, like, just nailed it on this one. But they let the Golem slip through, and that was the end of them.
Yes.
Because with the Golem, like, a lot of people, I'm not going to say, like, don't think about it, but it's really far in the back of your mind when you say, oh, if it goes to time, my sweet Rattlesnake is worth fewer points than that awesome Golem, and I can't beat it one-on-one.
Right.
So, like, if you can't deal with it, then, like, it's just going to be awful, and you're going to die in heartbreak.
And I think that's been the power of the Golem in several matches, is that there was a distinct turning point in that fight where the only real remaining DPS on the Tri side was that one Rattlesnake.
Yeah.
And at that point, there were several cruisers still there for Afterlife. And all those cruisers had to do was suicide into the frigates and make sure that there was not going to be those little points buzzing around the field for when the Golem came down to the 1v1.
Yep.
Because that's all it was. I mean, at that point, trading a Stratios for a Stiletto could still be good, which is kind of mind-boggling, but that's the power of having that anchor in the Golem. And I think it's an interesting point to see the teams that have fielded Vargers instead of Golems and how that's panned out. And I think just the omni projection from a Golem and that target painter bonus is so huge that I can't imagine a circumstance where teams would have opted for a Varger.
Yeah. The Golem doesn't do a lot of damage, but
Right.
it's undampable, and it can hit anywhere in the arena.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Give it 4 minutes, and it will kill everything. So, yeah, that is what we saw. Like, it looked like Tri deserved to win that one at some point because they had so many ships on the field. But that Golem was just like, okay, I'll plink at this carries for a while. Like, okay, I'll plink at this other ship for a while. Oh, hey, Merlin, I'll kill you in like 4 minutes, but it's okay.
Let's bring the results screen up on screen. Screen up on screen to get a bigger picture about this. So you've actually, what you're saying is that it would be okay to ban out a more expensive ship that you know is very, very, I don't know, juicy to field, rather than going for something like the Ishtar that they did, just so that your Rattlesnake, your flagship Rattlesnake, might be able to beat it on time.
Yeah, I think so. Like, being able to like kill everything on time, it's definitely not something that you plan on. Like,
No.
but it's definitely something that teams need to consider.
Yeah.
Like we saw Hydra have the same problem. We see Tri have the same problem. And even though I've been gushing about Tri and how they've gone from week 1 through the losers bracket, so have the Afterlife. Like, they got knocked out in week 1 by PL, who's looking really good right now, knock on wood. So I mean, they've been going through the same struggle, and they're looking really incredible.
Yeah, and I want to echo it again, even though it's been touched on a number of times, in that the Vexor Navy issue ban was awesome. That hull had been used a few times, somewhat ineffectually. But as compared to the Ishtar has sentry bonuses, right? So a lot of teams have used it for its high alpha, and they use it in conjunction with the Marauder really well. But what it doesn't have is an Omni drone speed bonus. It has a heavy drone speed bonus.
The Ishtar does, yeah.
Which means if you're going for larger targets or even like command ships, it would be perfect. It could do that. But if you're looking to kill frigates, the Ishtar can struggle with that if you're not relying on sentries and things like Golem's target painters. So the Vexor Navy issue, I mean, like you said, 11,000 meters per second on a flight of augmented medium drones.
Camel like did crazy things with those Navy Vexors, and I imagine that's what kind of Tri were afraid of.
Would they have been in a better place if they'd banned Golem Vexor rather than Ishtar Vexor then?
I think if they banned Golem, if they banned the Golem, I think they would have been in a happy place. But I mean, then I don't know, maybe they just take a completely different setup with like a Paladin that you still can't break. It doesn't do as much damage, but it can still be okay.
Yeah, this is almost too dynamic to go into ifs and buts.
Yeah.
This is the way it went.
And the crazy thing is they both played so many matches today, like they just had to be, I'm sure they were mentally spent when they came up with the bans. They just saw the ban screen, they're like, oh wow, this red 60 is flashing at me. What do I do? Let's just go with Old Faithful. Like, let's just kick out these Navy Vexors because I hate them so much. And then they just let this Golem slip through.
That's not a mistake I think we'll see more of today, as I put down a little angry X on my sheet. And as we have said, the Triumvirate team are now out. Afterlife moves on to fight the Nulli Secunda 40 minutes from now, or a little bit less maybe. It's scheduled to be 40 minutes from now. They will need a little break and to compose themselves. Meanwhile, the next match, Ronin versus Tuskers, is in full swing for preparations and everything, mobilizations and such. Ronin banned out the Guardian and the Oneros, while the Tuskers banned out the Ishtar Golem.
So no more Golem.
No more Golem.
So we're not going to see the Golem just living at the end and just breaking hearts.
But again, we get the Guardian Oneros combo that you guys have been raising your eyebrows about.
Yeah, I think it's really curious. Someone else did PL ban the Scimitar?
No,
Oneros?
The Oneros and Guardian was banned earlier today.
I don't know why you banned Guardian. Like
MIF banned it against the Ronin.
Maybe they know something I don't know, but that Guardian, it's not that impressive to me. I guess you're just really, really hoping someone takes an armor tinker or a shield setup when you do that, because I mean that's what it leaves open.
But that seems like two opposite ends of the spectrum. The only similar thing that would work against those two comps would be control.
Could be. But maybe they just really hate armor things. Like they're just, man, I hate armor so much.
We've already seen several teams successfully field armor setups that didn't rely on either of those ships. I mean, even I believe the Pandemic Legion setup with the cruisers, and they have banned the Golem, but the later in the tournament we've gotten, the less T2 Logi we've seen. The more Logi frigates we've seen, and the more teams just without a logistics hull at all we've seen.
Actually, what are the flagships for these two teams?
So that's a very good question, and I think I have a sheet here that tells me that.
Because if it's something like a Geddon or a Balgorn.
So the Ronin has a Balgorn as its flagship, and the Tuskers have a Geddon.
Okay, so maybe the Guardian Oneros, I'm going to say it again.
Yeah, that's. I was about to suggest that maybe they banned it because they want to hear you say it.
Yeah, that could be it. Or they just want to get rid of the flagship, because you can't ban the flagship, and they can't bring the flagship without armor logistics. At least it would be really, really risky to do so. And if they do, they wouldn't be able to field it in the same capacity.
Risky business is good business, though.
It is. But then again, they could just do what Nulli did against Hydra and bring the Flaggeddon with a Proteus, like a Tinker Proteus.
That's cool.
So, I don't know. These guys they must be just really, really racking their brains right now.
Look at all the waffling happening on Elace's face now.
I am so crazy. Like, these matches are driving me literally insane.
And imagine how the team captains must feel.
Right.
Yeah. These matches are just so crazy good. Like, I just talk about the Tri match we just saw, the Tri Afterlife match, but still in my head, I'm just still thinking about the Hydra match, and I'm still thinking about Tusker's Camel. Like, it's just beautiful. Like, this is insane quality for an Alliance tournament. I know we're in the finals weekend, but these are, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. This is finals day, like, quality of matches. The meta is good. The setups are all really well thought out. And you put any of these teams back to Alliance Tournament 9 or before, and I think they just steamroll through. Like, that's how good these teams are.
Well, I think everybody has been saying really nice things about the losers bracket. That we're all winners, and these teams are all strong. But I feel like there's still some people that didn't believe it up until the point where Hydra got boom headshotted right on out of the tournament. And then following that, Tri, who honestly I do think were the favorites. I mean, just from where I sat and the people I've talked to, not by a huge margin, but they had a lot of momentum coming in. They get knocked out. So if you didn't buy into it being a tough losers bracket and you thought that was like a, hey, let's be nice to these guys since they got to leave thing, it legitimately is like heartbreakingly difficult, which is why I would never believe anybody would deliberately put themselves there.
Yeah, no, it is horrible to be in the losers bracket.
Yeah.
Like,
It is
absolutely horrible.
Rattlesnake
Playing so many
skins
matches.
aside.
Yeah.
Yes, farming them rattlesnake skins.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Seems to be Grayscale, you look comfortable there in that position, almost under the table. That's
I can go lower.
it's not what we're asking for, but he can go lower, everybody. That's interesting.
True fact.
True fact. It's also interesting to note that we're in the same kind of chair. Since everybody's been asking about that.
Yeah, there's no booster seat or anything. I
No.
kind of wanted one.
Well, it
but-
was funny because during the Hydra match, I think all three of us were standing and you were still sitting because you didn't have to stand to see the screen. So,
Yes.
yeah.
The benefits of being fully grown, unlike you people. So, Grayscale, we might want to come back to your expertise on matters for down the line sort of release stuff. So,
Sure.
Explorer corrected me. CCP Explorer corrected me earlier today with an email.
He does that.
Yeah, he does that. Telling me that the release schedule for the rest of 2014 and 2015 planned is actually 5 weeks, not 6 weeks.
Okay, cool.
And what do you feel that this sort of faster release schedule does for work like yours? It sort of allows for faster feedback and turnaround on feedback.
Yes, there's a number of benefits. The most obvious one is that, I guess, from a player-facing point of view at least, is that we can iterate faster if we screw something. If we do something suboptimal or something that we feel like there's space for improvement, or we find something amazing we can do to make something better based on player feedback, or whatever, we have like, oh, obviously we've got follow-up small patches like in the week or two after release. There's always going to be like tweaks there, but we've got a 5 week out. We can do something substantial and drop it in 5 weeks, and there's no like having to ask, like, can we get a release and can we get something fit into the schedule? And it's just like, no, like, can we put this into whatever it is, Hyperion or whatever? And they're like, yeah, sure, just put it in the right branch and it goes. So that's really useful. Second thing is that it gives us more flexibility in what we can plan. Like, because the old system, we were pretty locked into this 6-month thing, and we had point releases and we could do things, but for major things, you were looking at a 6-month release, which kind of constrains your options a lot in terms of the amount of work you can realistically do on a single large feature. Like, sometimes we do features with 2 teams, but it's always a lot more trouble just because, like, a team larger than 6 or 7 people just starts getting huge inefficiencies in meetings and stuff, so you want to keep it small. But then if you try to have 2 teams working on the same thing, like we did to a large degree in Cryos, we worked really closely, Game of Drones and Super Friends together to keep that in check, but there were still things falling through the cracks because you're in different meetings and you're having to sync up kind of outside the team. So the team system we use is really powerful, and it's really good for things that can fit in a team release, which is like 6 months for 5, 7, 8 people. But for bigger things, it's just there's a lot of issues there. Whereas now, where we have this longer thing, it's just like, how long is it going to take for one team to do? 'Cause it's much easier for one team. Like 8 months, cool. 3 months, cool. Whatever. Like we do it and then we drop it in the next release, and we can even, because we've obviously spent a lot of time investing in our tools and our systems and processes, we can even like finish a thing like 2 weeks after Hyperion, is drop it into the next release branch and not quite walk away, but like we know that's done and that's going to go out, and we need to keep an eye on it when it ships in 3 weeks' time, but we can start on something else because everything's a lot more fluid. So we get this much nicer, just like, how's it going to take? Let's do that. Let's ship it out there. That's really useful.
Yeah.
And yeah, feedback cycles are good. That's good, and just it gives us a lot more flexibility in what we do. allows us to imagine both bigger and smaller things, which is
Flexibility in
helpful
these
for us.
matters is nice.
It allows you to make cool graphs so you can see like the effect of things, right?
Exactly,
So,
exactly. And we've like you said, we've done this 6 weeks after Crisis, or so we've done this thing, done some graphs, and gone, okay, cool. There's some tweaks we want to do, and we've obviously like Hyperion. Or was it Hyperion that just went out?
yes.
I lose track. We have an internal name and an external name, and I know what it was internally, but the external name confuses me because they're different letters. It's all in caps, but it's different letters. So yeah, like we've obviously like we're not going to get to that one, but the one after we can drop things in, and it's just like it's just there for us, and we can. Now we need to tweak these numbers. We can like we might want to go and tweak the way the cost formula scales a little bit because it's let's say we're seeing more in G than we're expecting, and we can just put that down, drop in a release. There's some little things with the blueprint data that was the recycle flag. Yeah. So did you know? Do you want an anecdote? We've got time for anecdotes.
Yes. Keep going.
I love it when something's broken and I get to hear about it.
It's not broken. It's just the old system was for how we did certain material things was a little bit fiddly in that, for example, the mobile large warp disruptor 2 requires a mobile large warp disruptor 1, which requires 9 warp scrambler 1s, I think, or warp disruptor 1s, and you have a flag we can tick. So it's like this gets sucked out. So when you recycle the mobile warp disruptor 2, you get all the parts all the way down the line down to the raw materials because of the way it's set up. But you've got to have all those parts in the warp disruptor 2, even though they're not all required in the build list because they're in the warp disruptor 1 or in the warp scramblers. So you have to have I have a big spreadsheet of 3,000.
Sounds like it.
Then
It
it's
sounds
very
like you have it
calculate these
memorized.
things. And I have to get the right amount of titanium in a mobile warp disruptor 2. Despite the fact that building a mobile warp disruptor 2 requires no titanium because it requires a warp disruptor 1 which has the trit in from the warp scramblers. So I have to have a recursive spreadsheet which looks through all the things and goes, okay, what's this, there it is, and put it in this. And it's awful. It's completely awful. So there were some things like that were slightly wrong, that were shipped wrong. Because the system was awful, and we found them, we fixed them, and that's again just going out the next release. Like fix some little things and some things that had weird numbers, and some things that we'd missed, and some things that had been authored wrong for like 15 years, for 7 or 8 years. Like one of the small Tech 2 rigs was using too many components for some reason that we don't understand, but it always was. And I just tweaked that down, and
that's great.
that just goes out.
So like the new release cycle works well with all the tiny iterations that you do, so it synergizes with the iteration
exactly.
thing.
And it just also it puts us in a space where we're thinking flexibly rather than thinking like it's been very easy to fall into a trench where we think about 6-month cycles and like you have an amount of work that can be done in 6 months and you pick a feature that will fit in that work and that's what you do, and you don't think about can we do a follow-up release because requesting a release takes forever. Not forever, but like there's stuff that we as developers don't like to do because it involves talking to like deployment people and stuff. And I'm obviously exaggerating here. Like this is we're actually in a pretty healthy place, but historically, whatever. Yeah, so just having that thing where we're always iterating, like we're no longer the whole company synced up on this 6-month thing, and you're talking to them else, and they're all thinking about the same thing. We're all thinking about like winter release. We're all thinking about November, and everyone's in that mindset. It's really hard to break. I was like, can we do an October release? Whereas when everyone's like, well, we're doing this and this release, and then like Game of Thrones are doing this, and Super Friends are doing this, and 5 are doing this, and they're all on different releases. Like it just breaks you out of that mindset for like 6 months, and everyone's kind of floating in a little place.
That's good. So you can
really
get
healthy.
like tiny things and like tiny boxes to fill a spot instead of trying to find like one big thing.
What is the thing that fits exactly in this?
Yeah.
And we do that, and
And something that might take a week doesn't take 4 months to deploy anymore.
Yes, which is good for a number of reasons. It's good because it's fresh in our minds. It's good because code that sits on a shelf for a long time tends to
Get cobwebs.
It's relying on other code which then gets changed in the meantime, and then we ship something we haven't touched for like 6 weeks. This is a reason that we, for instance,